I'm going to set the stage with a few things. First and foremost, none of the questions I received are directed to any particular person. So the way I'm hoping to do this is we'll just go from basically 2 responses, those who have the mics, and then you'll switch. However, before I proceed to the next question, if one of you has something specific you'd like to contribute, by all means, please do so. But my intention is not to ask a question and get all 4 responses. A question, all 4 responses. So we'll just go with the alternating of the microphones. Unless you have something specific, then you can go for that. The second thing I'd like to do is point out that you have your journals. I want you to turn to the marketing page that we started with this morning, because this is a marketing discussion, and I trust that through the answers, many of you will have little epiphanies that you can add to that specific page. So definitely pay particular attention for that. Now, the questions that I've received, these are the ones that you filled out just a few moments ago. If you have additional questions, and we have time at the end, I'll ask for any participation that way. Otherwise, I think we've got some great candidates here. The questions at hand, I've organized based on kind of a theme, so there is kind of a continuity to this, and we'll see how this kind of progresses. There are some obvious questions here, so I anticipate you'll have an opportunity to answer the apparent thing that you would expect to. But then I'll end today with their final thoughts. So when we come to the point of ending, I will ask each of you to give a final thought as to what you would like to kind of summarize this whole discussion as. So here we go, we're gonna begin. The first thing here is, how do you overcome the resistance to marketing in any form? If you're scared of it, it's not natural. Gaynor, we're gonna start with you, and then we'll come over here to Jeremy.
Well, is this on?
They'll turn it on.
Okay.
Connor will turn it on.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think the biggest thing is to start with the end in mind. And if you're really trying to grow your firm, you've got to be able to get your messaging succinct and clear, know who you're talking to, and then use the different channels that you can to reach your audience. So if you're afraid of it, just think of it as part of your overall strategy and something that you're doing to meet that goal at the end.
Good. Jeremy.
Yeah, I think part of that also stems from not fully understanding marketing and the different channels and the different strategies that involve getting your firm and what you're doing out in front of the masses. Also as well, I think there's a little stigma around, what if I spend this money and it doesn't work? That's very, very valid reason as well. But I think at the end of the day, it's really, where do you want to take your firm? And you have to invest, to get there. And so it's understanding which strategies are going to be most relevant for your firm, and then putting a plan into place and investing, what you need to get there.
Thank you for that. I'm going to add something, and then I'm going to see if either of you want to contribute a little bit more. I'm going to use an analogy. One of the things that I find very helpful as it relates to marketing is some people really love what they do, the accounting, the bookkeeping, the tax, and so forth, but the going out and getting marketing just seems like so unnatural. It's not what they want to do. And so in a sports analogy, let's assume that you love to play the game, but you hate to practice. You hate to do those routines, those exercises that you have to do to be good at your profession. And I think it sometimes is uncomfortable. I think sometimes it's unnatural, but it's because of those exercises that you get paid for what you do well. So would either of you two like to add to that? Reza?
Absolutely. No, I get it. I'm an accountant, and therefore marketing is very uncomfortable to us. We're not trained to do marketing when we do our accountancy training. But every business is a marketing business. You can be the smartest accountant or tax advisor in the world, but if you have no customers, you have no business. And marketing is the art and skill of getting customers. So we need to get good at the art and skill of getting customers, otherwise we have no business. So like it or not, and I learned the hard way after spending thousands of money thinking I could just outsource it to some agency and pay them money. But they were just tactics, and marketing is more than tactics. Marketing is kind of your whole business strategy. You need to get your strategy right before you then adopt the tactics, because tactics without strategy is just noise.
Very good. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah. So I'm going to be the guy who's going to make you guys raise your hands. But with the show of hands, how many of you actually want to help people? Just raise your hand if you actually want to help people. Okay, that's a lot of people. How many, with your other hand now, how many believe that what you offer helps people? So 2 hands. All right. So we got 2 hands. So if you believe and you know that what you offer can help people, then I believe you have a moral obligation to be able to offer those services to people, right? And I think when we get into it, we often think about ourselves and we place our fears and our limiting beliefs, not understanding that by being afraid, by not putting ourselves out there, we're allowing other people to suffer, right? And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of terrible accounting and tax professionals, nobody in this room, that are out here marketing themselves and getting clients, because when it comes to marketing, if they don't know you, they can't flow you, right? They can't flow you opportunities, they can't flow you money, and visibility equals profitability. So you have to put yourself out there because you know that what you offer can help people. So that's what I would say.
Wonderful answers. These are some great insights, so I'm hoping you're taking good notes. So I'm going to transition now from the emotional, that challenge of getting out there and doing something uncomfortable, to this question where it says, if you were just starting your business, what is the first and most effective thing to do when it comes to marketing? And since you both have the mics, I'm going to start with each of you. Reza, please.
What I would do is the thing that's most uncomfortable, which is to niche down, which is to specialize and focus on serving just one type of customer. Because as you've heard already in the talks that have gone on today, when you try and appeal to everyone, you actually appeal to no one. So to get any sort of traction, to get any sort of, to really understand your customer, you need to understand what are their pain points, what are their challenges, what are the questions that they are asking. And you can't know any of that unless you know who they are. So the first step is getting clear on the who. Get clear on the who, then the what, where, and how to find your ideal client becomes so much easier. Now, easier said than done, and even if you're just starting out, I had somebody I was working with who started her firm just last year, not even going for 12 months. She decided to niche down into the recruitment business. And within 9 months, she'd already got to £100,000, $130,000, winning fees of $30,000, $40,000. Why? Because she niched down. She became everything to someone instead of just something to everyone.
Beautifully said. Thank you. What would you add?
Yeah, I would add to say that everyone in here, we all have phones, right? And there's people in our phones literally today that can become our clients if we just reach out to them, right? So you probably have business owners, entrepreneurs, people that can help and be potentially clients for you. And if you're afraid to be able to offer your services, you don't know what to offer, one of the things I recommend people starting off is reaching out to people and asking them, what's your biggest challenge as it relates to accounting and tax? And that's gonna open the door for one, for you to be able to learn about challenges that people are facing in the marketplace, but then two, open the door for a conversation for them to potentially be your client. So that's what I would say, to just at least get the ball rolling. And the great thing with the people in your phone, they already know, like, and trust you. So believe it or not, we're afraid to reach out to our family and friends, but those people are gonna be most likely the easiest people to offer your services to.
Both well said. Appreciate that. Excellent. So having now addressed then that first thing that we need to do, I'm going to go to the next question. 10 to 15 years ago, I had a lot of marketing success with direct mail advertising using postcards. More recently, that has not worked. Any idea as to why? Jeremy, I'll start with you and then I'll go to Gaynor.
Well, I think it's obviously changed. Like, the marketing landscape is heavily online these days. Not to say that traditional marketing doesn't work, but a lot of it is online, and that's where the masses are. And, 10, 15 years ago, that strategy, was effective. As, things evolve, technology evolves, different strategies evolve. It's about looking at what's working and what's not working, and really, moving in that direction. And so being online now, that's where a lot of, business can be generated. And so kind of focusing on where things are at, really, is kind of where you need to take your strategy.
Thank you, Gaynor.
I would say also it depends where your customers are at. So for some customers, direct mail might still work, and also it depends on where it is in the funnel. So you might make a connection with somebody online or meet them at an event and then you follow up with direct mail, and that can be effective. Or if it's a certain type of client where I know I actually get quite a bit of direct mail from wealth advisors. So, they're doing that because it's working for them. So I wouldn't discount direct mail altogether. I also think that direct mail can work with your existing clients too, to maybe give them a QR code to something special. But I wouldn't say that it's dead. I think that it really does depend on who you're marketing to and where it is in your whole flow. And it could be that, if you're looking at working with digital content creators as a niche, then direct mail probably is not going to be, your best channel.
Great answers, both of you. Gaynor, you used the term funnel. Could you just describe that for the audience real quickly?
Yeah, sure. So in, I guess, marketing speak, who knows what a marketing funnel is? A few people. So basically think about it as a kind of inverted triangle, a funnel, where you're going, top of the funnel is, for example, coming to a conference like this, you might hear one of us speak and say, I'd like to get to know more about what you can do for me. You'll go to the website. From there, you might fill out a form and download an ebook, and that would be kind of middle of the funnel. And then I might bring you down into my lead gen email stream. That's going further into the funnel, and then right at the bottom is where we have that conversation that could actually close a sale. So that's a really simple way to think about your marketing, is kind of broad and then bringing people into your universe from different channels so that you can have that conversion conversation or conversion activity that brings them into your client base.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Now, switch microphones. I am going to contribute to this one. In addition to the answer that was given, one of the things that has changed as it relates to direct mail marketing is the customer before was not reluctant to act on the call to action, where today it's difficult for somebody to, with a postcard, click on something. It's necessitating them typing, going, calling. And so therefore, the postcard has this action that's a little bit more involved. Therefore, if you can provide with the postcard a QR code that necessitates them just merely scanning something to take that next step rather than having to save it and type in a website address or make a phone call, that's one of the things that's caused the postcards to not be as effective as something maybe like an email, because an email, you can provide that hyperlink, they click into it, and they can go down that funnel without having to initially engage with you. So that's one of the things that the postcard didn't offer. But direct mail pieces can be extremely effective, especially when you're dealing with high net worth clients, because you can do very expensive direct marketing pieces that are effective, but they do require a little bit of investment. So just something to add there. All right, here's the next question. So did we change? Yes, we did. All right, which social media platform is the best for finding, bookkeeping, and accounting clients? If you had to focus on one, which one would that be? All right, Reza.
Great question. Again, I go back to, it depends on the one that your ideal client is on. Where is your who? So for example, I run my accounting firm. We have a couple of niches. The most recent one that we launched was a few years back called Capture Accounting, which is accountants for content creators and influencers. So I now know who my audience is. Now I know who my audience is, it's much easier to think about, okay, where are these guys hanging out? These guys are not hanging out on LinkedIn. They're hanging out on Instagram, they're hanging out on TikTok, they're hanging out on YouTube. So for that reason, I follow my who. So then I go to those platforms and put content out there that's going to reach them. Conversely, my other business focuses on accountants, bookkeepers, CPAs. They might not be on TikTok or Instagram, or they may be, but not in business mode, but they're on LinkedIn. So I focus my efforts in terms of the coaching business on LinkedIn. So again, it all goes back to the who. Get clear on the who, and then you'll know exactly which platform to go on, because it's determined by where your who hangs out.
Ditto. I agree, but to add on to it, for those who are like, please just give me one platform, just give me one. So I would say LinkedIn, and the reason why I say LinkedIn is because each social media platform has a different style and a different expectation. So on Instagram, people are there to kind of just hang out and have personal interactions. Facebook is a little bit more personal, it's more family and friends. LinkedIn is a setting, it's like a virtual conference, right? A virtual networking event where there's an expectation that I'm here to do business, right? And LinkedIn's mission statement is actually to provide economic opportunity for those on their platform, meaning that if you're looking for a job, if you're looking to employ someone, if you are looking to do business with someone, it's already that expectation that if I reach out to you, you shouldn't be surprised because you're on here to do business, right? You're on here to do some kind of transactional type of relationship versus the other platforms. It's not necessarily designed for that, even though you can make a lot of money on those platforms. But if there was just one, I would say that.
Good, good. All right, change mics. I'm going to add one thing to that. The best advice I received is look at yourself. Where do you choose to spend your time when it comes to either during business hours, kind of diverting away from something as a distraction? And that platform is clearly the one that resonates with you. You're most familiar with it. It's the one you prefer. So why not take what you're comfortable with and get engaged and participate and do something there? And that typically becomes a little bit more natural because it's the one you're comfortable with, and therefore you're going to gravitate to those people who are like you most. There you go. All right, ready? Okay, here we go. What is the best way to advertise without dropping money in the bag or hole? What can I avoid wasting money on? Gaynor.
Well, I guess that's a dual-sided question. What not to waste money on? I guess when you're first starting out, I wouldn't spend a lot of money on traditional advertising. I would spend, if you don't know how to do the research or you don't use AI tools to help you do some research on your ideal customer, then I would spend some money on that just to get really succinct and clear. But without dropping any money whatsoever, I agree with what was said about LinkedIn. I think that there is a ton that you can do on LinkedIn with some consistent posting that speaks to the pain points of your ideal client. And then also YouTube. I mean, please, everybody, really think about, could you set up a YouTube channel and just post 1 or 2 videos a week that are not long, but answer the FAQs of the people that you want to serve? It's free, and then you can share it on LinkedIn and get exponential effect from that. So without dropping any money at all, you could record 2 videos that are like a minute or less on your iPhone, set up a YouTube channel, which probably would take about an hour, and then share it to LinkedIn twice a week and make a few connections on LinkedIn, spend like an hour a week on that, and you could get more clients and you could probably know what to do with that.
Thank you. Jeremy.
Yeah, I would definitely mirror what Gaynor said there about video creation on LinkedIn. LinkedIn right now is really starting to move into a place where it's putting a lot of weight on video content. And, you'd be surprised, how much reach you can actually get with, video content. That being said, let's just assume that you are a new firm, you're just starting out, you really got to kind of tighten up your expenses. Looking at leveraging other people's audiences. And what I mean by that is, creating content for maybe a daily, like a local magazine, or even getting in front of, an industry association and doing some type of speaking in front of them and just leveraging the audiences that they have. It doesn't really cost you a whole lot. And even news organizations, because at the end of the day, anyone who's creating content, there's only so much content they can create on their own. So, it's getting your ideas in front of those people's audiences. And, a previous example is a podcast as well, right? As Roger, I'm sure you can attest to this with your podcast.
Podcast?
you're always in the need looking for content. So reaching out to like those influencers as well, getting your message across. This is the type of problem that we solve. These are the clients we work with, and this is how we do it, right? And I think that's really a good strategy as well. Leveraging other people's audiences, and it really doesn't cost you a whole lot of money to do that.
Reza, did you want to say something there? Oh, we got
I'd
both
love
of you.
to.
Okay, here we
I'd
go.
love to. Yeah, no, if the question was, what would you do? Was it for free, right? What kind of content?
What is the best way to advertise without dropping money in the bag?
Yeah, so I wouldn't start off with ads. Now, just to tell you in terms of practical stuff, I wear two hats. So the one hat is coaching business for accountants, the other is my accounting firm. So I had to find a way of trying to still get clients from my accounting firm without using social media, because my social media was focused towards you lovely accountants. And so what I am doing for my accounting firm is trying to get inquiries without using social media, even though my audience is social media influencers. So the platform we are getting most of our inquiries from is YouTube and Google. 95% of our inquiries and clients are coming from blog posts and YouTube videos, both of which are completely free. YouTube is big now. And as we've said, we mentioned about podcasts. So I was in Dubai a couple of weeks ago. I used the opportunity to set up interviews with 4 of my clients. And we just did hour-long podcast interviews where they were doing most of the talking. I was just doing the asking. Now, all of you in this room can ask questions. Book a podcast studio out with one of your clients and interview them about their journey. And if you're niche down and you get 4 of your clients in a particular niche talking about their business, their challenges, their story, that's going to get out to more of those clients in that space, and automatically that will position you as the solution, as the expert, as the guide in that particular sector. So if you've got no money, start off with YouTube and blog posts.
Awesome. Yeah, to add to that, so yeah, when it comes to business, you either have to use time or money. So if you have more time than money starting off, then yeah, I would say doing organic content. So my platform is Instagram. So I have over 300,000 followers on Instagram. But this is the interesting thing. With those 300,000 followers, I have 2.6 million views within a 30-day period, right? So that shows you the reach of doing organic content. So what you want to do is, I recommend on all these platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever, is create value-added content. So giving people free information and giving people, like, you know, when you go to the mall and you go to the different restaurants and give you the sample. So giving them a sample of your expertise and your knowledge, and that's going to allow your organic content to go viral where people are sharing it and commenting it. And if you want to go and utilize AI and use technology, right, there's a tool called ManyChat, and people can drop a keyword under your post and it'll automatically send them a direct message to be able to either book a call with you, to be able to watch a masterclass with you. And you're also able to have it now to where you're able to schedule the post as well. So if you are overwhelmed with the content, doing that as well. So I would say.
This is wonderful information, by the way. I'm hoping you're getting some great notes because I think they are answering the question. So this is related from the same person, and I'm thinking there's an answer here. So if you do full-fledged marketing on this platform you suggested, what tools, people, resources do you need to be successful to get that ROI? Tools, people, resources. So Gaynor, let's go there.
Okay, who's getting freaked out by the thought of like making videos and putting themselves out there? Is anybody like just like, no, I'm not comfortable with that? Which is normal. I mean, a lot of people get kind of a little camera shy, but that's why I wanted to ask, because I don't think that you have to necessarily make it all about you, and it can actually be a lot more effective if you kind of separate yourself from your brand. You can have a presence on social media that is your brand as opposed to just you. And then you can bring in, client success stories. It's like at our firm, this client, we were able to do X, Y, and Z for them, or interview your client, or even have somebody else in your firm, if you've got more than just you, to be an expert in one certain area, so that you don't feel that if you're a little bit camera shy, that the only way to do this is to become an influencer and be all across the internet, because you can do it in different ways. As far as tools, I mean, really a computer, an iPhone. I mean, it's a lot easier if you do have somebody else helping you to take videos so that you don't have to kind of crane your neck or get a tripod or anything like that. And as far as resources go, I mean, we talked about many different ways that you can do it without spending a dime. I think the time is probably where you're going to spend the most resources when you get started. But I always say to people, if you take the top 6 questions that you're always asked and start there by making some short content, you can be really successful.
Jeremy.
Yeah, I definitely would say time is the biggest piece that plays into content creation. That said, if you can really develop a process that is super efficient, so let's say you want to create short videos, just having your camera just roll constantly and you're just talking about specific things for 30, 60 seconds, just having it one long video, and then you could essentially leverage, there's a platform called Opus, which essentially you'd upload your video in, and it just cuts it into small segments, and then it has them all laid out for you, and you just basically post those to your social media accounts, if you will. So I would say just really being efficient with your time, because that's really what comes into play with content creation.
Thank you. I'm loving all these answers. I'm hoping that you're getting some great notes. I'm going to add one thing. That statement I shared a moment ago about what platform, and I suggested which is the one that you prefer, I think that's also the content question. Which is the medium you prefer? Do you prefer to read a blog? Do you prefer to watch a video? Do you prefer to watch shorts? And if that's your preferred medium, it's more likely that you're going to be able to gravitate to that naturally and provide that yourself for your content. So don't think that if you're great in front of the camera that you need to be writing blogs, and vice versa. If you're great writing things, that you're all of a sudden having to become a movie star. So just think what comes natural, what do you prefer and enjoy.
Can I just add one more thing to that?
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, so if I talked about the video aspect, but in regards to just pure writing content, AI is great for that. The only thing with AI, if you're going to leverage that, is make sure that you humanize it, put your personality into it. Don't just put a very basic prompt and then cut and paste it. That's probably doing you more harm than good. But leveraging AI like ChatGPT to get an outline of what you want to chat about, maybe some bullet points, or even have it write the article, but then you're going back into it and just fine tuning it to make it stand out and align with your brand and your personality. And that's going to speed things up. And that goes back to what I mentioned about cutting down the time and being more efficient on how you can create more with less.
Beautiful. This is amazing. All right, next question. Pass the mic, Jeremy. Here we go. This one, I think, is related to time, but it's basically how important is posting on social media daily? Is constant but less frequent more important? So, Reza, what would you like to say?
So, like I said, the social media is very transient. It's here today, gone tomorrow. So I would much rather create some long-form content that can then be chopped up into short-form clips. But I'd rather create and spend a couple of hours in an afternoon creating 2-hour-long, say, podcast episodes. Then the editor or Opus Clip software can chop that up for you. And then you've got social media content that can then go out for the next 30, 60 days. So in terms of trying to do it every day, it's never going to happen, right? So you're better off spending that half a day, 1 day a month to create content in batches. So you're focused on that 1 day of content creation, you plan it in advance, create the long-form content, and then get the editor to just chop it up into shorter pieces to go out on social media.
Yeah. So when it comes to posting on social media for across the board, consistency is really going to be key. So you just have to pick a schedule that you can stick to. So if it's once a week, being consistent, posting once a week. If it's once a day, being consistent, posting once a day. But you just want to stick to that schedule. One, because the algorithm is going to favor you, and they kind of know when to push your content out to your audience, and then your audience could also expect that from you. And then obviously as you are able to put out more, that helps you increase your reach and helps you be able to reach a larger audience.
Very good, thank you. We're going to switch away from the social media, I think the obvious questions that we've now addressed, to something I think is very appropriate, which is, with current marketing, what is the biggest challenge in getting a good candidate in the door and retaining them? What's the biggest challenge to finding that good candidate? Jeremy?
The biggest challenge, I would say, is one, positioning. What problem are you solving? How are you solving that problem? And talking about the outcome that clients are going to get based on the solution that you've put together that will solve that problem. And I think doing that is, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Can you just read the question there? Sorry about that.
No, you're actually onto it. It's, what's the biggest challenge in getting a good candidate? And I have to agree, it's first of all, who is your candidate?
Totally, yeah. And so once you understand that, I think that's like the pillars. Understanding who are you trying to target? What customers do you want in the door? Understanding, you know, what makes that a good client for you, and then essentially doing what you need to do to attract that client. So yeah.
Gaynor?
I would say it's looking at past success too. And we haven't really talked a lot about, you know, looking at analytics and things like that from a marketing perspective, but you know, everybody who's here has been successful, or else you wouldn't still be here. So look at, you know, how did you attract the clients that you love to work with in the first place? Were they mostly referrals? Did they reach out to you on social? Did you meet them at some kind of conference? And then do more of that, because we all have limited amounts of time. And one thing that we haven't touched on at all is it's great to put everything out there into vast channels, but you also want to look at how engaged people are, because there's, again, no point in putting content out week after week after week if you're literally getting 10 views on it. So, you know, if that's happening, we want to, you know, say that's not working and find something else that does. So if you're not bringing in those right clients, then we need to look at how is what I'm doing now different than when I had success before.
This is wonderful. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to switch now from that time question and that clarification of who's our client and how to find them to, let's assume we've got a little bit of money. What do you subconsciously look for in interns, people, that sparks the idea that they may be an asset to your sales team? What are you looking for that individual that you're willing to hire to actually have them do this for you, because it may be their strength? So, Michel.
Yeah, so one of the things I'll look for is, I think the biggest thing is that they're coachable and they're open to feedback. And if you're able to do that and you're hungry and you're willing to learn, then I think that's probably one of the most important characteristics, because when it comes to being able to, I mean, there's gonna be so many different changes, right? There's all this different changes in technology, your approach, the market's different. So having someone who's coachable is gonna be key. And then having someone really bought into the mission of your business. So making sure that one of the things I recommend everyone do is making sure they have missions and principles for their business, and making sure that that person has the same characteristics that match your values. And then once they have that, all the things are gonna fall in place. But those are the two main things, and then everything else, you know, we can help them with.
Reza?
I would say it's the people skills. Someone who's able to talk to people easily, which I know isn't a skill that's found in many accountants that we employ, but they are out there. I was lucky enough to hire someone a few years ago who was like that, and now the one thing that I was still involved in the practice was doing the sales calls, was doing those initial consultations. And I'm guessing that most of you in this room are still doing those, and you will continue to do it until you find someone that you can pass across that responsibility to. But they are out there, and now this guy is in place, and I've taught him the sales system, And he's able to have those conversations with clients, following the same system that I would use to take that client on a journey from finding out their motivations, what their pain points are, where they want to get to, and then presenting the price on the call to then close them. So they are out there, and you can find those ones with a bit of personality who love talking to people. Those are the kind of skill sets that I would go for to get somebody in that can have those sales calls for you.
This is beautiful. Okay, so we're going to go to the next question, which is related. So go ahead and pass the mic, and I'm guessing all four of you may want to contribute to this, so get ready. The idea is related to, yes, hiring someone, but not just an individual, but how to determine how to hire an agency, outsourcing this responsibility to another party where they now take over that role. So it's not hiring internally, it's now hiring a firm to actually now as an agency represent your business. How do you go about identifying that right company, and what are those things you're looking for to know that it's a good spend?
Well, I think that the accounting space is a very special space. So if you're looking to hire somebody or a firm to help you with anything in your firm, they really do need to understand what you do and the value proposition that you have for clients, because it's massive. So being very aligned on the value that you provide to your end client so that they can then go and take it and communicate that. I mean, I think that's paramount. And if they've had success in the past, I mean, I think there's no greater testament to who's going to be a right fit than somebody who's proven themselves to be able to do something similar for other people.
Jeremy.
Yeah, it's a great question for sure. I think one is doing your due diligence. You know, have they had past success with clients? What clients do they work with? Ultimately, you know, the people you're speaking with, is there alignment? Do you feel like they're a good fit? Do you feel like they will understand your brand, understand what you're trying to achieve? Also as well is, you know, what are you trying to do? Because there's many different types of agencies. Are you looking for Google ads, meta ads? Are you looking for search engine optimization? And really just going through the process of like don't just like, you know, sign up with the first person that you talk to or the first agency you talk to, but, you know, just having a few different ones that might make sense, talking with all of them, and then coming to a decision based on those conversations. And also, too, you know, it's not necessarily always about price. You can go on, you know, Fiverr, for example, which is like a freelancer marketplace, and pay $500 a month for an SEO strategy. Or you can, you know, go with a firm that's been doing it for a while, they get results, you're going to pay more for that, but at the end of the day, you're putting, you know, that investment, you know, to somebody who would be able to get you results as opposed to somebody who, you know, says that they can do this, this, and this. And I've seen many experiences where, you know, firms are only interested in price and it comes back to bite them. So I'm not saying you have to like, you know, spend a huge budget, but also, you know, understand that just because it's cheaper doesn't necessarily mean that it's always a good fit.
Thank you. Reza, did you answer this one already? I know Gaynor did. Okay, so how would you identify an agency that would be worth hiring? What are you looking for in an agency? And then we'll go to the last one.
Yeah, so what I would say is I've spent thousands in the past on agencies which didn't yield results. And I realized the reason why is because I had no idea that what they were doing was any good. So again, I go back to, you need to go away and learn about what marketing is. You need to learn about what does good copy look like. What does marketing actually mean for then to be able to employ the agencies in a very specific sector and then be able to judge whether what they are doing is any good or not. And what I would add to that is, so what I do now is I will hire specific people for specific things. So rather than an agency that claims to do everything and anything, if I want to do a meta ads campaign, I will just employ a meta ad specialist. If I want to do SEO, I will employ an SEO agency because they're just good at that one thing. And then we know what good looks like because we know that, okay, what we're looking for is inquiries and ultimately qualified prospects at the end of it. So overarchingly, it's about going, at least study yourself about what marketing actually is, free up your time, get someone to do the accounting work, lots of accountants that can do the accounting, so you can go away and learn those marketing skills to then be able to grow your business.
Yeah, just to add on to that quickly. So yes, looking at their client results, of who have they worked with and what results, specific results that they generated, especially if they're similar to your type of business model. And then really important before you even consider reaching out to an agency is making sure that you have a baseline and you know your numbers, so understanding your cost per lead, cost per sale, cost per book call, cost per client acquisition, the lifetime value, as we mentioned this morning. So all those different things, and making sure and sharing with them these are their numbers and how do they plan to make our numbers better by working with them. And that should be able to help you filter out who's going to be the best person to work with.
Beautiful. All right, here's what we're going to do. Our time has spent. I'm going to come back to each of them for a closing thought. Keep it about a minute each. But before we wrap this up, one of the things that I want to do is, first of all, mention that there are a few remaining questions. Those of you who have questions that were not answered or that have come to mind since we've started, I encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity to speak with them individually. They are at their tables. More importantly, they're out and about. Find the time to actually approach them and ask the questions that you're wanting to. They are the experts. They have the information you're looking for. Find the time to speak with them. That's why they're here. So I invite you to not just take these 45 minutes that we spent together and consider that it. You do have the opportunity to speak with them, and I encourage you to easily do so. So let's go ahead and do this as a final thought. I'm going to start at that end, work our way this way, about a minute.
Okay, so final thought. Going back to what Roger just said is, don't think of this 45 minutes as like your marketing for the year. Think about it as every day you're doing something to connect with the people that you want to serve, and also your existing clients too, because as we all know, if you serve people well, they're going to talk about it to other people and you'll get those referrals. But think about marketing like I think about accounting for my business. I'm not an accountant, so I know that I need somebody helping me move along my numbers and making sure everything stays on track. You need to think about marketing your business as the engine for growing it and just keep it moving day after day after day. Even if it's just one or two things that you decide to do, don't stop, start, don't stop, start, because that doesn't work in accounting and it doesn't work in marketing.
Thank you.
What I would say is that we have one of the best business models out there. We are sitting on a gold mine. If a marketer knew about our business, they would have a field day. 2 reasons. Number one, what we do is a legal requirement. Business owner needs to file accounts, tax returns every single year. Once a client comes in, as long as you don't make a complete pig's ear of it, they're going to stay with you for a very long time. Lifetime value is huge. We've had clients that go back 40 years. Imagine the lifetime value on that. It's close to $1 million. If I said to you that every client you bring on board is worth $500,000, how much would you be prepared to pay in terms of money and time to acquire that customer? Marketers look at cost of acquisition versus lifetime value. Lifetime value for us is huge, yet we spend little to no time and money on marketing. This is the big domino. Knock this domino down, all other problems in your business will fall away.
All right.
Check.
In stereo.
Yeah, I would say just continue the momentum that you have here. So you all are in here, you guys invested time to be here, you guys invested money to be here. Continue to invest in yourself, continue to grow, continue to take that next action. You know, in business, a lot of times the reason, one of the biggest things I see accounting and tax professionals struggle with is they start and they stop and they start and they stop, and that's just any business professional, right? And if you look at a train, for instance, the train could be going down the track 50 miles per hour, and a train could be able to run through a wall, right? A train going 50 miles per hour on a track and run through a wall. But if that same train is stopped, a small piece of wood could stop that train, right? And the thing that keeps it going is that momentum. So continue to invest in yourself, continue to get support, continue to learn, continue to grow, because if you're not growing, you're dying, just like in nature. So you just want to continue to grow, and that's what I got.
And yeah, so just my final thoughts on that is, the accounting space is super competitive, and if you are not positioning yourself properly, it's easy to kind of blend in. I'm a huge believer in niching and really packaging products into like productized services. And really, the key to niching and really focusing on one client, like one type of client, one vertical, and solving one challenge is that it makes your messaging so much tighter. You know where your customers hang out. You know the language that, resonates with them. And so when you truly understand what client you are helping, it's going to make everything so much easier. Being a generalist, it's a little bit tougher because you're essentially just offering services. And, at the end of the day, how do you position yourself if you're just offering services like the person down the street who's also a generalist, right? It makes it really, really challenging. So really understand who you're trying to target. If you can niche down your agency to focus on, that client, solve that one problem, and then, create products that are able to solve that, and then it makes everything else so much easier.
Beautiful, thank you. I am honored to be on the stage with these individuals. They are truly the experts. I appreciate each of your insights. Thank you for your time. I invite you each to spend time hunting them down, asking them questions, and taking the most of this opportunity, because all of us here are marketing. And so with that, give them a round of applause and invite them to leave the stage. Thank you for coming up here.